So we can open it up, like if you can share maybe some thoughts you have in the chat if you want, or other comments, what you learn about, like comments to these sessions, or what you learn about emotional closeness, or how it relates to your work.
Yeah, what we are discussing, what we are seeing, it's really clarifying for me some phenomenon I'm seeing in my clinical practice that are related with emotional closeness. So at the beginning of my work, I was really more focused on getting in touch with strong emotions, like even cognitively, that was my aim. But now, and also this is consistent with the good outcomes, when I have good outcomes, it's the most important point, the emotional closeness, apparently. In fact, John gave up us pressuring for anger, but he didn't give up pressuring for emotional closeness. Give up, not giving up, but stop going into that route. That led to awesome results.
Yeah, just keep addressing, I think, the resistance there all the time, the resistance, like devaluating, distancing, being passive all the time. And there was a great deal of remorse, as we saw, like all throughout the sessions, and yeah, also in the end, when you could really see like how he prevented himself to be in the relationships, and how he was like misusing the relationships.
No,
depending,
yeah, and this is also important. Observing position and judging people, that was apparently more triggering for the patient than talking about helplessness and helplessness. So this is very important. Like there are defenses of how to name defenses that are really more engaging the patient. But of course we tend to use the words and the defenses that we studied better. So helplessness, everybody read about helplessness if you are doing ISTDP, but maybe the observer position, that's, it's something you don't read about. That's, of course, is detaching somehow, so a very well-known defense, but it's framed in a different way.
Yeah, I also found that it was interesting with the word observer, that really mobilized him, and it was a word that John used. It's not a word that came from him. It was interesting to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the intervention. It's the intervention response principle, right? So when he's all the time, he's very observant of the patient's reaction. So anything he sees is mobilizing, so he uses it again.
Yeah.
Whether it's his association, maybe his UTA, or who knows, or it's the patient's, but if it works, you use it.
But you really need to be very flexible. You cannot go with the script that you have in mind. That's so much harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Also the freedom to bring, like, your language, your word. Like this is a word that comes from him.
Yeah.
So this is also a freedom for the therapist to see, okay, I can, bring things that are coming up for me and see the reaction to it. And if there is a reaction to it, so we can work.
This is a very, very, very useful way you are framing the thing. Was leveraging his intuition, but then was like making an experiment. I test it. If I see a response, then I use it again. If don't, okay, I try another. Yeah, very useful framing. Thank you.
Also, I think relaxing for us as therapists. Okay, we don't need to know, so we can see if the thing is working and have the freedom to try something else when it's not working.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Also for the patient, yeah, we can see together what is working and what is not working.
Oh, so useful. Yeah.
Okay. What else? Comments, thoughts?
However, about the last point, you can hear me?
Yeah.
I felt a bit inconvenient with him going on with the body. How do you feel in your body? And I also find in the clinic many of my patients don't really know how to answer this, and maybe I didn't observe it, but I didn't see that question was useful. And he still carried on with it many times, and the breakthrough wasn't through that question. So I'd love to hear if it maybe there was a reason to carry on, or it just tried until there was another idea.
I think it's interesting also it's a good point just to see like because he did keep on asking like, how do you experience this anger towards me? How do you experience irritation towards me in the body? So I think first thing is interesting to read the transcript and see what he says about that piece there. I think I have a couple of thoughts. We can open it up for discussion. One thought that I have is when he's asking about how they experience the anger physically in the body is an invitation to open the unconscious. So if we think about the problem of the patient, like he's being passive. So when he's not paying attention to himself, he's being very neglectful for himself. So paying attention to his experience. So it's something is inviting him to do something different. I think he was sighing. So I think this is something, I know that this is something that we refer to a lot when the patient is sighing. Okay, so there is mobilization. So you can keep asking if he's not saying anything. So there is something from the unconscious that is mobilizing there. But I think the evidence shows that at the end of the day, he didn't stay with it. So like Salvador said, and Elad says, I think also, so he was flexible and also close to the experience, I think, for the patient. So at the end of the day, he came back to this focus on the resistance and the avoidance and the wall and the distancing and the observer. And yeah, like he didn't went with that. He did ask for a few times, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the most important take is you try and then you see. And go with your intuition about it. Like if you have data that it's not working with the patient, so you can try something else, and also you can feel in the room. I also felt something about it, like how do you experience this anger physically in your body? So I also felt like it on the one hand, it was the function of it was giving a structure to the session, like, okay, so there is something about anger, but I felt like the patient response to the observer really mobilized him. And also when he did the links with his girlfriend, so also there was mobilization there. It's a great question, but we can see what other people think.
Yeah, there was a big problem with synchronicity when he was talking about helplessness, because apparently he was truly syntonic. But with the observer, the link was so much clearer. Like it was also easier to make a connection therapist current. And I mean, people don't, if the people doesn't understand, if the people cannot relate with the words, they maybe sigh, but it's not enough. I don't think it's
I think Davin also talks, the patient needs to be really clear. about what we are doing, like on a conscience level. So yeah, so there is something about that, like because he was so syntonic, so he wasn't clear a lot of the times, I think. So he was just doing what he used to do, so being passive. So then asking, so how do you feel this anger towards me in the body? It's not clear, so he's feel misunderstood. So just, okay, so you have this tendency of, being like, just really punishing yourself because he did see it through the breakthrough in the previous session. So can we have a look at what we can do about it here together? So you can be present. Do you want to be present? Like
so
right
in the
now?
previous breakthrough, he saw that he was helpless, playing the helpless position. This is what you mean?
I mean, like he really experienced why he needs to punish himself. Yeah, punish himself because what he did.
Yeah, but with the defense of helplessness, I mean, the problem for me is that the observer position destroyed his life.
Right.
Helplessness, I mean, if you take out of the equation the observer position, this misjudging people, helplessness can make a person lazy, or sometimes can make a person depressed, of course, but this was not probably his main problem. So it's
like the looking from the side. Yeah, it was like,
yes, like it was not the defense with the biggest cost.
Right.
But observer, oh yeah, that biggest cost. That's right. I think that, but of course in the books we read more about helplessness, so probably we are biased a bit to go for that route more often. That's my guess. What other people think.
But what we maybe can say is that it seems pretty clear that it's annoying and uncomfortable to the patient on some level to get asked this question.
Yeah.
Right. So he is in fact getting some annoyance mobilized. We can discuss the risk of it becoming counter alliance, right? Because it's not clear enough to the patient why this makes sense. However, that being said, at the same time, he is clearly becoming more and more annoyed, and then more defenses are coming up, and then at some point, John goes in on the defenses.
Right. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, Susan?
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
What?
For therapist led to value the therapy. And
you were just a little bit
valuing.
Yeah, now it's good. Can you start again?
That the pressure to anger towards a therapist led to devaluing the therapy, and that was the link to the observer, is that he devalues everyone in his life. He devalues the therapy. He devalues his relationships, and that maybe without that pressure, it wouldn't have brought up that defense of his of devaluing.
Great point, I think. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Great point. Just So like we don't know as therapists, and okay, so we can invite, and then the next resistance is coming by us inviting. So yeah, I think it's really important what you say. Yeah. Okay, any else? Any other comments, thoughts?
I want to add on the same topic that there surely could be other ways to go about it. Like you could be more just, keeping an interest on the patient's will and reflecting back whatever seems defensive and taking an interest. Like there are other potential routes. Yeah. And then another thought that comes to me, which is not a criticism, it's just that there are more than one route. And then another thought is something about our personality that comes into it. And there's something, I think I've seen it in several of John's videos. He has, I think it's part maybe of something about him and his capacity that he can go into this style where he asks repeatedly and then something happens and then he uses it really well. I remember Josette and Javi de Labia, she has this thing she does sometimes where she would do like this with her hand. Like she would rise pressure when the patient is kind of inactive and there's enough alliance, she would start doing like this. So right, a way to rise feelings, again, feelings and resistance. And obviously, if you do it incompetently, you're an asshole. But if you do it within, I think, right? But if you do it within the right alliance, we can almost immediately feel it ourselves, right? So what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this resistance?
Yeah, coming in. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. Ori.
And for me, it was also very a good learning point to see the stance, just not just the technical way that he does, but also the emotional stance he's dealing with the defense of devaluing. I just recalled an interview I had at the clinic last week with a patient that was really, just cutting me off after a few sentences. And there's something about it's not the direct aggression that, okay, we are well accustomed to take the direct aggression, but this way of not letting me finish the sentence in a way, and John's voice was really like he was totally cool about it and totally taking it impersonally and really seeing like the defensive function of this just being another way of distancing me from you. Okay, it's just like
another brick in the wall.
It's another brick in the wall, and it went to the observer and to the current things in life and etc. And in a way, John was really involved, but also could just look at it and see, it's you devaluing me. It's just a way of distancing, and so this might be pretty obvious for some, but it's something that really clicked.
Yeah, I think it's a super important point that you bring up, our tone of voice. It's super important when our tone of voice, when we use like a soft tone of voice, I think it's very important. Sometimes it can, and also to adjust our tone of voice to our interventions and to the atmosphere in the room, it's emotionally charged or something soft. So really relate to that. So I think it's also helping to be emotional presence.
Yeah, but it's not just present, because I think a very natural reaction on the therapist side could be, it's really annoying when he cuts you off and he devalues you, and you kind of go into I can imagine myself going into wrestle in a way. He's devaluing me, and you become, even if in subtle ways, you become defensive. And there was absolutely no defensiveness or no, aggressing back or devaluing back in a way. It's really like with equanimity.
So for us to tolerate our reactions. Not to suck it in, but to really engage with it. Okay, so should we wrap it up, or someone else has comments, thoughts? We good?
Yeah, it was very useful. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I also say thank you. Really great, and thank you for being. I don't know how you picked up. I wanted to say something, but thank you for that, Yuval. So I want to connect to a comment to what Ori said, that that another thing he makes very clear is that I'm here for you. This is not about me, and this undoes. I think that undoes a lot of fearful dynamics around attachment. It's the same that when the patient say, "Why should I be close to you?" and he answers to heal, and the patient has a breakthrough. Like, it's not about me. This is all about you. This is all about what this does to you.
When patients don't see why they need to feel or not need to feel, what the reason to get in touch with their feelings, so there won't be a rise. So there really is no reason for it to be a rise. But when they see the reason, when they see it makes sense, when they see how they relate to to their suffering. So it comes up more naturally, I think. So thank you all, and it was a pleasure. Thank you, John Fredrickson. Thank you all, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, תודה.
Bye.